What is going on, everybody? My name is Conor Lawler. Welcome to another week of Movie Mondays. This is the Here's Fire podcast, and we are back again talking all the week's movie news, entertainment news, and generally just having a chit-chat about all things film. As always, I'm joined by my partner in crime, Mr. Sean Meehan. Sean, how's it going?
I'm good. I love movie news.
You just love movie news?
I would be distraught
if
I didn't get to talk about movie news with you every week.
Oh, boys. You will be excited this week.
Oh?
I have endless amounts of movie news.
Excellent.
Endless amounts.
Oh, wait. Current movie news?
No, absolutely not.
Oh,
no
no
current news.
There's been no recent news in the movie world.
So this week we're actually going to try something different. If you came here for movie news, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming next week.
Hopefully.
But this week we said we'd try something a little different. We've been throwing around this idea for a few months actually.
It's actually like this, in our pitch meeting that we had with ourselves, we were
pitch meeting to ourselves.
This podcast.
It's a no from me.
Sorry, dog. This is something we've talked about this since last October. Yeah.
Originally we were going to do it we'll do one extra show a week. They were like, Jesus, 4 shows seems like a lot.
We struggled with 3.
We very much struggled with 3. So we were like, maybe not. Now we said what we'll do is we might do like a once off every so often.
Yeah, a little treat.
A little treat. So this week, with the news that Iron Man is reportedly returning to the MCU for the Black Widow movie.
Big news.
It's big news, but unfortunately there's no other real big news. So I said we'd take that as a chance, that we'd take that news and we'd go back to find out the very first appearance of Tony Stark in a sort of Lazarus Pit situation, Sean.
Now, when you say Lazarus Pit,
Yes.
do you mean reviving something that was dead long ago?
Very much so. So that was actually in the pitch.
It was in the pitch.
So we don't
and a
want
whole segment of the PowerPoint dedicated to it.
Oh, absolutely. It's a no for me again. No.
It's an even bigger no.
That's a shit idea. No, so this movie Mondays is technically a Lazarus Pit, but we just call it Movie Mondays
for the sake of numbering.
Because you looked at me and were like, should we call it Lazarus Pit? And then I was like, yeah, but then you can't do Movie Mondays 49 again next week.
Yeah, Movie Mondays 49, Weird News Wednesday, episode 50.
That doesn't make any sense. So, this is a Lazarus Pit. We are going to be reviewing the very first Iron Man. It's a bit of a blast from the past, Sean.
It's a bit of a Back in Black.
No.
It's a bit of a Thunderstruck. What
Better. Better. So, in regards to the Iron Man movie, also, obviously, spoilers, this movie came out in 2008, doesn't really matter.
Give no excuses.
We completely understand if you're like, I came in for movie news. What can you do?
Yeah, especially since this is titled Movie Mondays.
We couldn't call it Lazarus Pit. We will from now on, though.
Okay, fair enough. Everyone has to be on board with that.
So, as I said, Tony Stark will be appearing in the Black Widow movie, which is set to release next March?
2020, yes.
Is it April or March of next year? It's one of them. And so we said it's the 11-year anniversary. The film actually finished up in cinemas this week. 11 years ago.
And one.
2008. So, going back to the very first movie of the MCU, Sean, where do you want to start with this? Do you want me to give you some stats?
Stats would be good, because this is before comic book movies were the monopoly that they are.
Very much so. This is before The Dark Knight, I think. This came out on the 2nd of May. So when did The Dark Knight come out? I think it was later on the summer.
I think that was Christmassy time.
Was it?
I think so.
I don't think so. I don't think it was Christmassy.
Was it not?
No.
Oh.
I think it was
DVD around Christmas, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was later on in the year, though. I think it was around June or July.
Enough, so. Oh yeah, because everyone dresses the Joker for Halloween.
Of course. So this was released May 2nd, 2008. It's 2 hours long.
Good length.
It's a nice length.
God be with the days.
Production budget of $140 million. They made $585 million.
Good return.
First in the time out for the MCU.
And that is...
Or did the Hulk movie come out after this?
After this, yes.
Yeah.
Same year, I do
Same
believe.
year, yeah.
But that is knocking it out of the park for Marvel, who, consistently throughout history have been broke.
Yes.
Several dozen times.
So, what I wanted to do here is, because this is the very first Lazarus Pit, it's the very first MCU movie, we can talk about, on a whole scale, what led to this, why did this movie mean so much when it actually did well, kind of things.
Yeah.
Because in terms of Marvel, a lot of people don't know is that, now they are trillion, billion, gazillionaires.
They print money.
They just print money for fun. But in the late 90s, early 2000s,
Yeah.
they sold off all the rights to Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, their biggest properties
And
were,
X-Men.
Yeah, X-Men, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Not in that order, and those are the ones that were most marketable. They sold off Blade as well.
Yeah.
Um,
To Wesley Snipes himself.
to Wesley Snipes.
Forgot to pay taxes, it has to give back.
That was the rule. That's why we get Mahershala. But the characters that Marvel were left with to make films were your Iron Mans and your Captain Americas, who are at the time C-list characters that no one gave a shit about.
Which is the reason why nobody cared when Marvel said we're going to start our own movie franchise or a movie universe. Because all the other studios, Sony and all them, were like, well, we have Spider-Man. And Fox are like, well, we have the X-Men and Fantastic Four. So
Universal is like, we have the Hulk.
Yeah, you're not going to be doing much, basically. What are you going to do? Iron Man. Nobody likes Iron Man.
Nobody reads Iron Man.
And here's the thing. This is what I wanted to get up to. This movie created a legacy rather than went off a legacy that existed. Nobody liked Iron Man.
Yeah, so this movie was just... It's by its own merit that people liked it.
There was nothing to base it on. So people couldn't go, I love that character. It's not like a Spider-Man movie where like, wow, I love Peter Parker. People went into this not knowing anything. As you said, a C-list character.
Yeah, people went into this, I think, largely as a movie.
Yeah.
This wasn't, I'm going to go see a comic book movie. I'm going to go see that movie about that superhero.
So, to even go even deeper into that, C-list character,
Yeah.
a superhero movie in 2008, when they were laughed at, before The Dark Knight came out. Batman Begins had come out in 2005.
And it was grand, it was fine.
I
it was
think
well received.
I love Batman Begins, so
Yeah.
I am biased, but like on the general scale, people were kind of like, well, unless Christopher Nolan's doing it, then it's probably still just going to be a campy superhero movie.
Yeah, that's the thing, because it was all about... The thing that people were saying about Batman Begins was it's realistic.
Yeah.
It's not 60s Batman, where he's fighting sharks and what he was shark.
Holy rusted metal Batman.
Exactly. It's based in reality, and no other superheroes exist in the Nolan Batman movies.
And the Raimi Spider-Man movies had come out, and Spider-Man 2, of course, is amazing.
Yeah.
But I still don't think they changed the genre. They were kind of just like, they're superhero movies.
Yeah, and they were still looked down upon quite a bit. They weren't to the level of polish that films generally were.
They were comic book fans liked them. But
Yeah,
the
'cause they were
mainstream fans.
Yeah, because they were like comic books in
Yeah.
that they were campy and fun and had colourful villains.
And so, like, this movie comes out directed by Jon Favreau, and of course, Robert Downey Jr. Their level of risk, it's weird, because, like, you think level of risk is they started the MCU this, but on the other side, now it looks like risk. But at the time, there was no downside, because what the fuck... You can't lose anything else. They had no movies.
Yeah, now, to make Iron Man was a big gamble because they took out a loan.
Yes.
And against that loan, they put up every property they had.
Yeah, that is true. And they were like, where should we start? We'll start with Iron Man.
Yeah, which I have a feeling it was nearly a coin flip
Between Captain America
and Iron Man.
Yeah, okay.
Just for how central those two characters became to the universe. I think that you could have started with either one of them.
I don't think Captain America does as well if Iron Man doesn't come first.
Yeah, I think because Captain America would be no one's favourite movie.
No.
Just going in blind, because the people who like war movies won't like it because of all the space stuff. The people who like space and futuristic stuff won't like it because it's a war movie.
Yeah. And I think you need to start with Iron Man. You need to start with fun. Like, Batman Begins, this is what set it apart, was Batman Begins is so serious.
Yeah.
And so dark. And then you have a character who is basically Bruce Wayne.
Genius billionaire.
Genius billionaire.
Played by philanthropist.
Exactly. But he doesn't take anything seriously.
Yeah.
He looks at everything and he just gives a remark. He just doesn't give a shit. And this brings us on to Iron Man, the character itself. We haven't even got into the movie, but the character itself, like, on a scale, it's not likable. Like,
no.
if you wrote down what this character is, he's not likable on a piece of paper, which is a good testament to Robert Downey Jr. Because I have here, like, he makes weapons for the government.
Yeah.
Nobody likes war. Nobody likes weapons.
He lives for it.
And nobody likes the government. So there's three things. He's rich.
Yeah.
People don't normally tend to, like, I don't know, like themselves, or like a character that's rich, just as he has loads of money.
Yeah, it makes him less relatable
Yeah.
if he just has all the money in the world.
And he's arrogant.
He is
He's the most arrogant man in the universe.
But he backs it up.
That's
as
the
well.
thing. So you write all of those stats down. Makes weapons for the government. Loves war. Rich and is arrogant. You're like, this guy is a dick, and that's why nobody liked him in the comic books. But they bring in Robert Downey Jr., who the only word I can use is charisma.
It's charisma, but also, like, another word is comeback.
Yes,
Because he was through the ringer for a while. Like
he did Chitty Chitty Bang Bang the year before, I think it was.
Yeah. And
Or no, sorry, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Kiss Kiss
Jesus.
Bang Bang,
Not
sorry.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, look, I would,
Maybe he was in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
I would pay to see that. But like, as much as they were taking a risk on Iron Man, they were taking a risk on Robert Downey Jr. as well,
Yes.
because he didn't have the same draw that he used to have either.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, this whole universe is built off a C-list character and a movie star that
Fell from grace.
fell from grace, and nobody knew if he was going to make the comeback or if it was just like a bright spark and then he was going to fall back into obscurity.
Yeah, and he fucking did it as well. And he did it to the point that the character in the comics changed to reflect what
Yeah.
he was like in the movies.
Yeah. I think the best hero movies are ones that aren't superhero movies. They're like, they can be action movies, but they're also something else. That's what makes
Yeah.
The Dark Knight amazing. It's a detective movie rather than a... I mean, he's not a great detective in those movies, but...
He scans that bullet so many times.
I don't know what, that scene makes no sense. But just like the best superhero movies are movies that are other things.
Yeah,
and a superhero
yeah.
movie second. And this is like a comedy adventure movie.
It is a bit, yeah, but it's also like this movie talks about the horror of war and
Yeah.
pushing it down the line, how it's not your problem.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's a lot going on in this, and there was no script.
That is one of the major things. So we will go scene by scene now in a second. But like in terms of the script, Jon Favreau did let them improv like 70% of it. He
Yeah.
said, and they were just going to scene. So Gwyneth Paltrow and Robert Downey Jr. they know where the scene ends, and they just kind of fill in. And I think that plays so well in their dynamic.
Yeah, and it sets them up as quippy, intelligent,
Yeah.
witty, I suppose is the word.
Not only that, but they also, you can tell, they give off the impression that they've known each other for years. Because if you know each other, you just talk over each other.
Yeah,
And they're
yeah.
talking over each other in scenes, which it's a normal in like a movie. But
Yeah.
normally it's like, I'll say my piece, you say your piece. But they're just actually having a conversation like two people who had known each other for 15 years would, and she's just done with his shit.
Yeah.
And he's just quipping.
They're having a conversation in character.
Yeah.
And they're not dropping that.
Yeah. And it's the great dynamic which kind of leads this movie to have, like, they're the heart of the movie, I think.
I think so, because Pepper has a storyline as well.
Yeah.
Up until, she becomes a bit of the damsel in distress.
See, we'll get to the last scene.
Yeah.
But in regards to their dynamic, I think it gives the movie like that heart that it needs. That it has all the action scenes and it goes to them. And I like the idea that it's very understated and also completely against the grain.
Yeah.
The cliche at the end is when he's like, if I'm a superhero, I should have like a superhero secret identity and a girlfriend and everything. And she's just like, do you remember that time you left me on the roof
Just
there?
alone.
Just alone there? Like, that's a cool little scene.
Yeah, that it's not. They're not a stereotype.
No. So, okay, we've gone into all that stuff. Do you want to go into the movie itself? The opening.
Yes.
It's a fucking great opening.
It's like, it's what, 3 minutes long or something like that?
I think it's 4 or 5, yeah,
But
whatever.
It's so much fucking happens. You set up Tony.
AC/DC comes in first.
Yeah. Back in Black.
Back in Black immediately, which is the soundtrack of Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, true.
But like, Black in Black comes in, and you're like, oh,
Okay,
good
I like
stuff.
this.
I'm into it.
And then it cuts into the Jeep and it's playing on like a shitty little CD player.
Yes.
And then
Robert Downey Jr. is using his charm and all, and it's a very comedic scene.
yeah, everyone's really tense. All the soldiers are just doing their job.
Yeah.
But he softens everything and he gets them all chatting and he sets them at ease, maybe.
And not only does he set them at ease, he immediately sets us at ease, weirdly.
Yeah.
Like, you immediately like this guy because everybody's so serious and he's just sitting there in a suit with his little drink
Yeah, that's another thing, is that I said this before on the podcast, there's a great video that the first thing we see of Tony Stark
Is his left hand.
is his left hand, and that's the hand he uses to snap.
No, I think he used his right hand.
Does he?
Yeah. No, they ruined that.
That would have been amazing.
They
then.
ruined that.
Disregard that whole thing.
But that is a fan theory that the left hand is like vitally important.
Yeah.
But it even just in the scene itself, like he's completely different.
Yeah.
He's in that world, but he's not in that world.
Yeah, he is going home after this.
He doesn't care.
Yeah.
And so they of course get attacked. He gets kidnapped. And there's a scene where the Stark bomb lands beside him.
That's great, and it zooms in.
And it zooms in. And it takes, I think it's 4 or 5 minutes before he just immediately gets the shrapnel in his heart. They don't waste any time.
Yeah, that's terrifying as well. You see the little pinpricks in his shirt, and
Yeah.
then the blood just starts spreading.
And they just immediately show, like, you could have wasted time with an origin story, but it's like, no, he's got something wrong with his heart.
Because he sets himself up like he's an arrogant douchebag at the start, but he's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
And then this terrible thing happens to him. And then we go back in time and we see what got him
And
here.
the scene where we go back in time is the award ceremony. And that's a really clever scene in the two ways that, one, it's just exposition, really.
Yeah.
But it's clever exposition in that it shows us how great he is, how much everyone loves him, how smart he is, and then it goes, and we'll give this award, and he's not there. He's
Yeah.
out gambling.
Yeah, he's playing in the casino.
It gives us immediately his two character traits, that he's this genius, but he does not give a shit.
He'll do whatever he wants.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Which totally fits. with
Yeah.
Why he would become a superhero.
And you could have somebody in that scene going, yes, Tony, do you remember that time you created all those robots? Isn't that amazing? You don't care, do you?
No.
You're such a wild
you
character.
just don't care.
It's just 10 times easier to just have that little montage where they're like, as you would at an award ceremony, if you were going to give him like a lifetime award or something, and then just have him not there to accept it because he doesn't care.
Yeah, Rhodey accepts it for him.
And immediately everyone's like, oh, okay, cool. That's just who he is.
Yeah. And again, like, having that little like slideshow of newspaper clippings and everything, to have that just in the film,
Yeah.
and not just for our benefit, but that's for like the crowd in the stadium or wherever.
Yeah.
They're seeing it as well.
And so from there you go back to his house, which I think is one of the best. It's one of the best creations of like the Marvel universe, because it immediately is like, this dude lives in this fucking
Yeah.
house, and it's like the most perfect house for him.
The house, yeah, because you have Jarvis, who's still an AI at
Yeah.
this point, which Paul Bettany like kills it as Jarvis in this.
The cast is very well done.
Yeah, and they all work well together.
There's no weak link.
No. Even like Jeff Bridges is actually scary.
You can't really go wrong with Jeff Bridges, though.
No.
Like, he's just...
He's the dude.
and it's just his voice is just, he's always evil. He'd have to be with that voice.
You can't play a good guy, no.
No. He'd do a great podcast, though.
Oh, he would.
Oh, I would listen to Jeff Bridges' podcast.
podcast.
But he'd say really creepy things. I'm sure he's a lovely man in real life, though.
But everything would just sound creepy.
You have nice hair. Jesus, Jeff, you're weird.
Pretty good, Jeff Bridges.
Thank you. So, yeah, it shows the house. And then Gwyneth Paltrow's there. That's her introduction to her.
Yeah.
And immediately she comes across as a very likeable character in that she does not give a shit about who he is.
Yeah.
And
she's just his long-suffering assistant.
Everybody else is like trying to tiptoe around him, and he doesn't care. And then we love that she doesn't care. She's just like, yeah, whatever.
Because she's like the us in that scenario, in that she's saying what we would want to say to someone who is treating us like that.
Now, I think Gwyneth Paltrow in the later movies is probably not as likeable, but she's at her most likeable in this movie.
I think so too. And like, Gwyneth Paltrow has been in and out of the universe as
She doesn't even know who's in the movie. She does not give a shit.
Just doesn't remember Tom Holland.
No.
But I do like her in this movie, and I think she's a good foil against Tony.
Yeah. I think the two of them, as I said, their scenes are one of the strongest in the whole movie.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever they're together, it's always the strongest scene. So you have the cut back, and that's just like, they didn't have to do that. That's a weird time thing that they did, and it goes back up to the point where he gets kidnapped.
Yeah, and I think that's largely to show us the change that happens after he's kidnapped.
You have to see that so the redemption makes sense.
Yeah, and why he would change his mind, or why he would essentially give up everything. Because if he's not making weapons, he's not going to make as much money.
It's unique storytelling. Like, it is unique, but at the same time, there's never a wasted scene.
Yeah.
Like, there's some movies there that could add another 5 scenes to show all of his backstory. This is like flying through it. It's like this. You've got all these character beats, and now we got back to the cave.
Yeah.
He's been kidnapped. And we see him selling the weapons, and we see him standing in front of all the army guys. The explosion goes off. And
That's a great scene as well.
It's a great scene, and when you find out, actually, did they write that like 5 minutes before that scene took place?
Yeah.
10 minutes, like, that's a... And it's just... How did this movie is so good in that it's all ad-libbed. It's just Jon Favreau, he trusted them. Trusted them just to do it.
Yeah, and I think we've seen that with other movies in the universe, that if you trust your actors enough and trust that they know the character, like in Thor Ragnarok, you will get a good result out of it.
Exactly, because you don't hire these people unless they're talented.
Yeah, and if they're not talented, why would you even consider hiring them?
Exactly. So he goes back to the cave, and you have the scene where I can't remember what's the guy's name?
Jensen.
And he saves them, and they have...
That's like gruesome as well.
Yeah, when he starts pulling the string out of his own nose.
Yeah,
that's not
and he
great.
has like, it's a car battery. Like it attached some copper in his chest.
But my favourite scene in that whole... my favourite bit in that whole scene with all the cave, and he's meeting the bad guy and he's going through all the weapons.
Yeah.
And the bad guy's like, if you create this, I'll let you go.
Yeah.
And he says, no, he won't. And then Jensen goes, no, he won't.
No, he won't.
And they're smiling at him, like, because he can't understand them. But there's just that clever scene that you're just like, oh yeah, they both know.
Yeah,
like,
they're gonna die here.
And the audience, that immediately makes you like them more, because you're like, oh, you're in a no-win situation here. Like,
yeah, and also like, they know it as well. They're clever enough to not be tricked.
yeah, it's not like, oh, we'll get free. Okay, I'll make this.
I'll do whatever you want.
He's like, no, you're not going to let me go. Why would you?
Yeah,
there's no point.
And in his mind, then he's like, so why would I help you?
Yeah,
if there's nothing to be gained from it.
And so he makes the Mark 1.
Yeah.
And it has 15 minutes of life, I think it
15
is.
15 minutes of battery life, and it's essentially just metal plates and a flamethrower.
But
and a gun.
It's bad enough that we believe that he could make that in a cave.
Yeah.
But just crazy enough that it works in a superhero movie.
Yeah, because I don't know, there's something about it that you see him like beating on the metal and you see him pulling the palladium out with a missile.
Yeah.
And
Jensen, well, he does it.
Oh, amazing biceps. But like that whole, I don't know, construction scene, it just goes to show like he can do, he's not just the brainy guy. Like, he knows how to blacksmith. He knows how to pour metal.
We've heard of how good he is. But
Yeah.
this is our first time we actually see that he backs it up.
And he bonds with Jensen then as well.
Yeah, and that's like our first piece of heart in the movie. Like, this movie's all about heart. I find the theme of this movie is heart.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about heart. Like, Obadiah Stane says later on, I want to rip the heart out of this, and Gwyneth Paltrow has the thing of like, prove that Tony Stark has a heart. It's all just about him having a heart, and at the start we don't believe he does.
No, but Jensen, I feel, is the first friend he's made in a while,
and first person that doesn't care who he is.
Yeah, because they're all the same, because they're in a cave.
Yeah, and he's just like, yeah, we can work together. It's fine, and they're just both working. And also Jensen is just as smart as he is.
Yeah,
and I think he likes that.
But Jensen didn't have a rich dad.
No.
You know, like, they're the same level of intelligence.
But he speaks like 9 different languages, and just...
Yeah.
He's just as smart, so the two of them can bond over that. So
yeah. Also, Jensen has one of the best quotes in this movie.
Is it the man who has everything, but you have nothing?
No.
Okay.
It's, what is it? This is a big week for you.
Okay.
Is it Jensen?
Yeah, I think he does say that. Yeah,
he says this is a big week for you, and like the weight of that, because this is the week that he becomes Iron Man.
Yeah,
and this week sets up everything else that happens in the MCU.
It is a big week for him, in fairness.
You know,
Jensen's seen it coming. Big fan of Kevin Feige. He gets out of the cave. Mm-hmm. He goes flying off. They finally get saved. We're kind of flying through, but everyone is... I'm sure you've seen Iron Man if you've seen this movie. So he gets out of the cave. He has the flamethrower scene.
Great.
I mean, he burns them all to death. And it's
kills several men in this movie.
He's not against killing.
No.
If they're going to kill him.
But even he outright seeks people out to kill.
Yeah, I think it's...
At one point.
Yeah, I think it's if if they've wronged him or something, he has no morals there. He's just like, yeah, cool.
Yeah. I struggled to wrap my head around that the first time I watched it.
Right. But at the same time, you can kind of understand it, because especially in that cave, if you've been stuck in a cave and you've been kidnapped by those people,
that was survival, like.
And he was waterboarded and everything, like, he's like, no, fuck you, I'm going to burn you to death if I have a flamethrower.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, he returns to, I was going to say Earth. Maybe.
Later on he does.
He does, yes. That's very movies down the line now, but...
Gets a cheeseburger.
Very much so, yes. He gets a cheeseburger, and his daughter wants a cheeseburger. No, it's spoilers. Spoilers. So he returns back to America, and the first thing he does is he sells everyone that Stark Industries is no longer going to be in the weapons making business.
Yeah, which I feel is a very real world thing.
And their stock just immediately plummets.
Yeah, again, a very real world thing.
Exactly, which is why it makes sense. The movie is just... I know it's a crazy world where a man is just in a robot suit, but it also has a bit of the Christopher Nolan in that this would happen.
Yeah, and also, everything... I might be jumping ahead a bit. The CGI in this movie, the suit, looks unreal.
Yeah, they perfected that.
There is no earthly reason why an 11-year-old movie should look that good.
But, yeah, there's never really a scene where I'm like, he's not in that.
Yeah. Even when he's not, and you know he's not.
Yeah, even when it has the shot of just his face, and he's clearly just on a green screen.
Yeah, it's still flawless.
Yeah, it is. And he's sympathetic because he immediately is like, I've seen we're doing this wrong.
Yeah, I've seen firsthand where those weapons are going.
And so he immediately stops it. And as I said, one of his character flaws is that he worked with the government and he manufactured weapons. That immediately takes that out of the equation.
Yeah, and the government, by all accounts, will want nothing to do with him.
Because he's no use to them now.
And we glossed over it as well. The weapons were being sold to the Ten Rings.
Yes. In their ideal world, they're like, we just sell them to Americans. But money talks, and you just sell it to whoever is the highest bidder.
Exactly.
Which is a real world thing.
Which happens probably far too often.
Very, very far too often.
Let's not get into that.
No. And another thing.
But to put the Ten Rings in the first Iron Man movie is quite a clever thing. They did some stuff with it later on.
With the Mandarin.
With
Trevor Slattery.
Sir Ben Kingsley. We were talking about, it was last Movie Mondays, we wanted an actor who's very, very good but has been in some awful shite.
Yes.
I think Sir Ben Kingsley is up for the task in Face Off.
That's actually a good point. But Ben Kingsley and the Mandarin.
And the Mandarin,
in the same movie.
Same movie.
Yeah.
But we look to be getting more of the Ten Rings in the upcoming Shang-Chi movie.
Okay.
Which, I'm not saying they were thinking about that then.
I think they were thinking about it in Iron Man 3, and then they did it wrong.
Yeah, and then they backpedaled.
Now they're doing it again.
But I like the Ten Rings in this movie. I like that it's not a physical 10 rings of power that he's fighting. It's 10 circles of the same group. Yeah, and but I think a good thing is that we don't even know who he's fighting. He's not fighting anyone in particular. That's true. And this is it's weird as well, because it's just vaguely Middle Eastern country that he goes to. And there was a war on at the time. I think does he go to Afghanistan? Yeah. And it's snowing there as well. Because it's winter time. It's winter time, of course. But we'll get to that. So after he returns, the stock plummets, and then we see him doing the testing of the actual suit. The Mark II. This is some of the strongest scenes in this whole movie. Yeah, because he's figuring it out, and he's not good at it straight away. No, you see that he's terrible. He flies into a roof and just smashes himself. Yeah. On the floor. But I love he's doing the littlest things. You see him looking through a dozen magnifying glasses and turning one screw. Yeah. And you see him the arm blaster things. Yes. They start off as just, it's strapped to his hand and there's a shit ton of wires coming up him. And then to see that evolve into something he can use to fly. Yeah. To stabilise him. And I think that's another good scene in that this is a completely out of this world
idea.
Yeah.
But we are kind of brought in to step one.
Yeah, it's like they explain how this fictional technology works.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense in reality. But
No.
you're more likely to believe it if there's that scene where he's strapping it around his bicep
Yeah.
and his forearm, and like it's just it's like the bare bones of just the arm
Yeah.
and the wires. Like you just need to see that scene. And then later on, when he uses it, you're like, "Oh no, I seen that made."
It's like all that stuff is just underneath some armour.
Subconsciously, that just goes into your head. That you're just like, "Oh no, I've seen that happen. Yeah, that makes sense."
Yeah.
Rather than if you talk about it for 2 seconds, you'd be like, "Oh no, none of this makes any sense." But it's a smart way to bring the audience in.
Yeah, and they use... It's not all... You don't just have a CGI model of Robert Downey Jr. floating around when he's flying.
No.
The way they did it, they like built a special harness that supports his weight in a way that makes him top heavy. So he's actually balancing
Yeah.
while he's being hung up on wires, and then they just erase the wires.
Oh,
And that's how it's done.
I did not know that.
It's really cool. It's in the behind the scenes.
Okay.
But it's like, it's little things like that just help sell it. And it also means like when he lands on the ground and like has to catch his weight,
Yeah.
he's actually doing that.
See that it adds more levity to the scene. Like that adds
Yeah.
a bit of weight.
Exactly.
To the actual thing. So, and this takes away another one of his flaws, which is he's rich, and you said like he's not relatable.
Yeah.
But now he's using his wealth for something good. We see him using his wealth to create something that he can help people with.
Yeah.
So
And I don't think even... I think he doesn't even know it at that point.
No.
That he's going to become a superhero. He's just doing something.
But like why I set up those like character flaws at the start is throughout this movie they get peeled away, one by one, until he becomes a character, a fully fledged human that we can enjoy.
But keeping the best parts of what he had before.
You keep his charisma, but you get rid of his flaws because he has so many flaws. Like all
So
the rest of
many
his
flaws.
movies are just him getting rid of one flaw after another.
Yeah.
But like in this movie, they took away like 3 or 4 of them at once because you had to do that in the first movie.
Yeah, but this doesn't... It's not like a boring origin story.
No.
Where we know where he is and the film tells everything leading up to that.
Yeah.
The film just starts and then... Because no one cared about Iron Man, so no one knew where it was going to go.
Which is why I said they created the legacy
Yeah.
instead of having to live off something. You have a clean slate. You can do whatever you fucking want here.
Yeah.
Because if you do it wrong, who the fuck cares? There's like 4 Iron Man fans in the world.
Yeah. And I think whenever we say origin movies are a bit boring, usually that's because...
Marta!
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or, like, we've seen, for example, Hawkeye. We saw him in the Avengers.
Yes.
And he had an arc in Avengers and we learned about him and we liked him because of that. We don't need to see where he came from.
Yeah.
Same with Han Solo.
Yes.
The character is already there. We've been with them. We don't need to see it. But this was a new character that they gave an origin.
They had to
movie
do the origin too.
Yeah. Do you get where I'm
And
coming
I
from?
think if they started too, like nobody likes this guy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think you like him, but you're not connected to him. Like after this movie, people are connected to him.
we see from his point of view.
We see for his journey. So
Yeah.
later on in Civil War, if you just started 2, I think people side for Cap. Because it's like, who the fuck is this dude?
Yeah, what right does he have?
Like, what has he been through? Like, Cap has been through loads of shit. And you've just come in, big rich boy who wants to just do everything.
Yeah, you don't get the stripping back of the character flaws.
Exactly. So, you see the testing, and in that testing, he says a line of, you need to run before you can walk.
Yeah.
And that's why he flies straight up into the sky
And freezes.
and freezes, and that's how he saves himself at the very end.
because he remembered that.
But it's a character flaw that leads him to do that he's just really cocky immediately. He's just like, I barely know how to float. I'm just going to fly as high
gonna
into
go
the sky. Straight up and see what happens, which nobody else would do.
No, people will be like, okay, I'll go 10 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
I'll go 20 feet off the ground. He immediately
Let's
goes
see how high
sky
I can go. Let's see what happens.
Which, it is a character flaw, but it's also one of his best features.
It's why he
is that
survives.
He'll jump in.
Yeah.
You know?
Without thinking.
Exactly.
He just does it.
He just does it and he...
Because he trusts himself.
Yeah, but even, like, it's the... Who's... Edison, he said, I found 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like every mistake Tony Stark has ever made in terms of technology, he's learned from.
That's good.
And if he does, he might not do that in his life. But, you know?
No, I agree. So you then get the first scenes out with him arriving in Afghanistan.
Yeah, that's a brutal
And
scene.
that suit, by the way, is fucking...
Favourite.
It's just pure sexy.
It never got better than that
No,
for me.
when the helmet comes down and you
Yeah.
just see then the red and the gold, you're just like, my God.
I think that suit looks angrier as well.
You think?
I think it has a bit of anger to it.
It has a bit of menace.
Yeah.
It's the eyes, I think. I don't know what... Or maybe just the face mask.
I think it is the eyes, and the mask I think comes in more on the jaw.
Yeah.
So it looks more like a skull.
Yes.
If you
yeah.
get me.
It does look a little more menacing, and I love that.
I love it so much. And he's bigger as well.
He's bigger, but I think the suit matches where he is there then. Like, he's menacing.
Yeah,
Then.
exactly.
He's
And
like,
he wants to look threatening.
I'm going to go fight some fuckers.
Yeah.
And I'm going to kill some people.
But like in, say, Infinity War and Endgame, that suit is literally, if he has his skin, there's a suit on it.
Yes.
You know? But the one in Iron Man 1 is bulky and mechanical and electrical.
It's based off Mark 1,
yeah.
but it's a smaller version. But he goes smaller and smaller as it goes along.
And it's, but I like big suit Iron Man.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. And you have the scene where he arrives in Afghanistan, kills everyone immediately.
Yeah.
And there's the big fight scene and the action scene where everyone just literally does not stand a chance.
No, and like, they have 7 hostages.
Yeah.
And he just targets the dudes' heads.
And immediately you're just like, oh shit.
He's unstoppable.
Yeah, he's unstoppable. This genius. Because he lands and everyone's got machine guns and then there's a big fucking tank.
The first thing that happens when he lands is he gets shot.
Yeah.
And nothing happens.
And if anyone other superhero dropped into that scene, you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
This could end badly. Like, they could get a lucky shot. It doesn't matter how many shots they get on him.
He's just going to keep going.
He has a big suit that's full of rocket launchers.
He blows up a tank.
And yeah, the scene with the tank, that's a very trailer. Perfect
Yeah.
for a trailer where he fires one little missile and then he just walks away. Cool guys don't look at explosions,
They
Sean.
don't. And he's the coolest guy.
He's the coolest boy in the room. So he has the testing and he's ringing Rhodey then. And they're having a chat.
And he's fighting in the air.
He's fighting the 2 jet fighters and he's like, oh, I'm going for a drive. And then
Yeah.
Rhodey's like, I thought you were going for a walk in the mountains. No,
I'm driving and then
I had to drive to the mountains and now I'm walking. It sounds like you're in the air. No, I'm not in the air, no.
And then he hangs up on Rhodey and minutes later calls him back and it's like, yeah, it's me.
Yeah.
I'm in the suit.
Yeah, because they're about to blow him up, is it?
Yeah, they have him targeted.
Yeah.
But he flies back in the air, crashes the wing off a plane, and then pulls it open and pulls the parachute on the dude.
And that's a really good scene because when he's flying forward, he just stops.
Yeah.
And he goes backwards. And you see how agile that shit is. Like, it's a big bulky suit, but he's designed it so that it is as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And can change directions on a whim.
He can outmaneuver a jet fighter.
Yeah, a fucking jet fighter.
With a trained professional piloting.
And he's just flying around the place.
Like, it's very like that technology no one had thought of in that universe.
No.
And he is the first one, and now you see how good it is.
And so it goes from that, and then there's probably there's a few scenes in the middle. But I want to talk about Obadiah Stane. This is where the big reveal is that he's the big evil.
He's a big evil, so he ousted Tony from the company.
Yes.
Froze his accounts.
But that's been all going on in the background. He didn't really care. You just assumed that he was doing all that because he's real mad that he stopped making guns.
And Obadiah Stane had been selling those guns
Yes.
to the Ten Rings and to other organisations around the world.
Exactly. And so...
They're ironmongers.
Oh, good.
Thanks.
And we have the scene where he finds the suit, the Mark 1, and he's like, Tony Stark made this in a cave with a bunch of scraps.
And that guy comes back in Far From Home.
Very much so. That's so weird to think about now when we're going back to watch this.
It's so good though.
When I seen him, I was like, that guy's from Spider-Man.
But, I like the idea that... Because Obadiah Stane kind of was a father figure to Tony Stark.
Yes.
He even calls him son a couple of times. But I like that he was always jealous of Tony.
Yeah,
Because he wasn't as smart as him or as cool as him.
And the only reason he's there is because he was friends with his father.
Yeah.
Rather than he's a genius. Now, Tony's obviously his father's son. That makes sense genetically.
Yes.
But he's also... Is he seen as smarter than his father? I know his father was also a genius.
Well, yeah. See, it depends, because in his time, Howard Stark was the most brilliant man in the world.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
Canonically, I suppose they're probably about very similar.
I think you would call Tony smarter just because he's gone through more.
Yeah.
Howard Stark never fought aliens.
No.
He never interacted with alien technology, say. So I think Tony has a broader skill set, but in terms of general intelligence and ability to learn, I think they're about the same.
They're about the same. And I probably Obadiah thought when Howard Stark died, oh, well, now I'm the chosen one. Like,
I'm the big cheese.
He gets this son who's just as smart.
Yeah.
And is just intelligent as this like genius from the age of 5. And he's like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. And I think that, like, if Tony was more interested in running a business, once he turned 18, Obadiah Stane would have been out.
Yeah. But he doesn't care.
He doesn't care. He just wants to build things and have fun.
Yeah. And I think that's probably that's why it leads to the jealousy.
Yeah.
It's like, why don't you want to do it? Just, I'm running this company. Why do I have to do everything?
Yeah, it's like if I had the things that you have, if I had your intelligence,
yeah,
I would be the most wealthy man in the world.
And so we see that Obadiah is evil. Jeff Bridges plays it really well. There's that scene with Gwyneth Paltrow where he's just so creepy.
He's talking about strawberries.
And that tension in that scene is massive.
Yeah, and he's just like, he asks for the paper.
Yeah.
And he's right up in her personal space.
Yeah. And
so
Coulson is in that scene when she leaves.
Yeah.
Now, we haven't really talked about S.H.I.E.L.D., but they are dribbled in this.
Yeah, they've used their unacronym's name.
Yeah, but it's just a good way to introduce them. It's actually probably the most subtle way. It's very unlike Iron Man 2, but it's a much more subtle way of doing it. It was very clever. So, then you have there's the big... It gets into the third act, and I think this is where the movie goes a bit downhill.
Yeah, I think it falls back on
cliches
and tropes.
Yeah, like up until that point, and at the very last scene is completely un-cliche.
Yeah.
But there's 20 minutes in the middle there where they just go to, right, there has to be explosions, there has to be a damsel in distress, there has to be a monster who's the same as the good guy but an evil version.
Yeah, or is at least equal in power. In some way.
And he's just saying really cheesy lines throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like the Jeff Bridges we've seen for the previous hour and a half in that fight scene. He's just saying one-liners.
There was a time it was phase 1 and phase 2 a bit that it was a Marvel villain would go insane for no good reason.
Yes.
And that's what happened with Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, so he's meant to be like incredibly smart. And then the final fight scene, he's just punching him. And he's like, you have so much power.
Yeah.
Not so strong now, are you, Mr. Stark?
It was a clever way of depowering Tony.
Yes.
Taking out the arc reactor, and he has to use the first one he made.
Yeah.
But, like, it's still no challenge, really, to Tony. Because Tony is faster. And he's better in the suit.
And, yeah. like
he's only limited by time because he doesn't have as much battery.
Yeah. And so the big fight scene, it's not great.
It's not great.
I don't like it.
He swings a motorbike at Tony Stark.
He does.
But the motorbike keeps revving.
Oh, that's good.
So it goes, hits him in the face.
I see, I've been very positive about this movie up until about this scene.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, not for me, I don't think.
No. Now, it looks great.
Yeah.
Like, the effects, the shots. This movie was shot on film
as
well, so it looks really good in darkness.
Yeah.
But it's set at night and it's raining, which is the height
of course
CGI
it is.
a lot of the time.
Of course it is.
The best part of the fight is the end.
Yes.
Where he tricks him into getting frozen and then blows up a big blue beam.
You have to have a big blue beam into the sky, obviously. It's the first phase of Marvel.
And Pepper sets that off, doesn't she?
She does, yeah, from the factory.
Yeah, from the big arc reactor.
Yeah. I think it's clever that they set up the ice thing originally, and then I like the idea that they go back to that.
Yeah, it could have been, when it first happened, it could have been just a cheap gotcha moment.
Yeah. But it as I said, no scene is wasted.
No, not at all.
Everything comes back. The only scene, ironically, that I feel like just meh about is this scene.
Yeah.
But it ends with something that we've seen earlier on, and you go, oh yeah, I understood that. Once again, it makes sense in this universe because you created the rules.
Yes, that brand of suit. Because if you hadn't done that, you wouldn't know about it.
And he's upped his suit. hasn't Tony?
Yeah, Tony, like, and it was a simple thing in that the panels can flex,
Yeah.
which cracks any ice.
But the first one doesn't have that, obviously, because that was a mistake he made earlier on.
And that's the plans that Jeff Bridges is basing it off.
And the only person who would know that mistake is Tony Stark.
Which
makes sense in the universe. So that rule is perfectly fine. The end of the fight, perfectly fine. Just the fight itself, as we said, bit cliche, bit meh. I think meh is the best way.
Meh is, but when the rest of the film is like a solid 7 or 8.
Like the film is kicking ass up until that point.
Yeah.
And then you have that, you go, okay, right, I'll accept that because the rest of it's pretty good. And then it ends on such a high. So the fight scene ends, and then it goes back to the press conference.
And he's getting ready.
And
Coulson is like, okay, here's the plan. You're going to go out and say that this Iron Man dude, he's your bodyguard.
Yeah.
And Tony's just like, people won't believe I need a bodyguard, surely.
His ego is so big. Yeah. It's just like, why would I need a bodyguard?
I wouldn't want one.
I've been working out.
These guns.
Did you not see me hammer that metal? Oh, no, I didn't.
And he nearly goes for it. He nearly says that to all the press conference.
And I think people would have accepted it, but they probably wouldn't have thought he was as cool.
Yeah, and there's a great scene where he's like, I'm not saying I'm some kind of superhero. And the reporter's just like, I never said hero.
Yeah. And then he gets mad.
Yeah.
His ego is like, no, I am Iron Man.
Yeah, I'm Iron Man. I can do whatever I want.
Fuck you, you're not invited to my party, right? So, I am Iron Man is one of the most iconic lines.
Yeah, and it, like, as soon as he says it, cut to credits,
Perfect.
AC/DC Iron Man starts playing.
That's like, the best way to end this movie.
He's not Iron Man until that moment.
Yeah.
He's just Tony Stark in a suit.
And that's when he accepts who he is.
Yeah.
And the responsibility he has.
Yeah.
A little bit, which Iron Man 2 kind of goes back on, but...
See, Iron Man 2 has one of my favourite bits. Like, it's not amazing.
Yeah.
But it has one of my favourite bits in that he is taken to court and has to explain his actions. You know, right at the start of that movie.
Oh, yeah. And he doesn't... Does he not take it seriously at all?
He doesn't take it seriously, but I like that... you know,
there's consequences.
There are consequences. He has to do this, and there's major news coverage about it
because it makes sense in the rules of the universe.
Yeah.
So, as I said, then they had the after credit scene, first after credit scene ever.
Yeah.
Recommended by one Edgar Wright.
God, if only he was more involved in Marvel. Still a bit pissed off about that.
He's very small. He's some sort of Ant-Man.
Interesting.
Yes. That was tough. But yeah, they have the after credit scene that's with Samuel L. Jackson, Sammy J
playing Nick Fury,
playing Snakes on a Plane character.
Yeah.
There are too many motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking... Hello, Tony.
Hello, how are you? Sorry, I was rehearsing for a new role.
So he introduces the Avengers Initiative and all that, and that's like a very cool scene that they didn't put in the movie, which I kind of like.
Yeah, and it's a way of saying we're going to make more movies without saying outright we're going to make an Avengers movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Because you introduce S.H.I.E.L.D., you introduce the Avengers, but you don't beat over people's head. This is Tony's movie. So you don't want to take it from him.
And he's the first one we know about.
Yeah. And he's... The last line, he says, I am Iron Man. And the movie's called Iron Man, so it has to be about him.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just the way it is.
There's no other heroes. Like, you get your teases. You get the War Machine tease.
And the Ten Rings tease. Yeah. And the S.H.I.E.L.D. tease. But nothing is overbearing.
No.
I think that's the issue they ran into the second one.
Yeah, in that.
It was slightly overbearing, but the first one is balanced very delicately, but very well.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it.
Okay, so that's actually a bit of a... We did a full run-through of the movie. I think we skipped a lot of scenes, but I mean, we're not going to go scene by scene. Fuck that.
It's not a great movie.
So, would you think this is a good one?
I do. Like, it might just be because it's the first Marvel movie.
Yeah.
You know, but I think it's... A lot of what was done here, that set the pattern for the rest of the MCU movies, but also... for an origin movie, weirdly. You know, like, even as recently as Captain Marvel, you can see parallels between the stripping back of, I don't want to say flaws, but a character changing and then becoming the hero rather than us being introduced to a hero and then here's how they fucking got bullied in school or something. It's a better origin story than Man of Steel.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you get
Man
me?
of Steel is a good movie. Well,
It's grand.
it's a grand movie, but Iron Man as an origin movie, I think if this movie doesn't come first, the MCU doesn't make as much money.
No. You don't start with Thor.
You don't start with Thor, you don't start with Captain. It had to start with Iron Man, which was probably the least liked person in the whole universe before they started.
Yeah, he's not a typical protagonist.
More importantly, it had to start with Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
It's not even the Iron Man character. It had to start with Robert Downey Jr., who is basically just this character.
Yeah, it's the charismatic, quippy dude. But he pulls it off, you know?
It's just so, it's so likeable. What I will say is, it's just fun. And, like, people who don't like comic book movies can watch this movie.
Yeah, this is a very low investment in terms of what you need to know going in, which is nothing.
That's, as I said, there was only 4 Iron Man fans in the whole world.
Yeah.
So there was no legacy to build off of. So people who were into comic books could go watch this free, clean slate. People who weren't into comic books can go watch this because Robert Downey Jr. is pretty funny.
Yeah.
And it's a great cast, and it's a pretty good movie.
Yeah, and Phase 1 is pretty good about that they're not that connected.
No.
In like their individual movies.
It wasn't until Phase 2 and Winter Soldier and everything that everything started building.
Yeah.
And like, that is like the best movies in the series, I find.
Yeah.
But you needed these first few movies to just be an introduction.
Like we've been saying this whole time, it set the rules of the universe.
So I think that's it for the review of Iron Man.
Are we out of the Lazarus
pit? We're out of the Lazarus pit. This is our very first inaugural Lazarus pit.
Could be our last.
Hopefully, if people hate it, we'll never do it again. I promise.
If people even somewhat liked it,
yeah,
please let us know. Genuinely let us know about this one.
Let us know, because we will happily do more. Like, we're thinking, originally we were like, we'll review every superhero movie ever.
Yeah.
Good or bad, doesn't really matter.
Bad.
Mostly bad. Obviously, you'd have to do like Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, Winter Soldier, X-Men, all that. Like, there's so many possibilities you could go to. So, I'd like to talk about Blade 2. I really like Blade 2.
You did the whole Blade trilogy.
No, maybe not 3. But yeah, I think we could do this. This is fun for us. Like, I mean,
these are conversations we just
have anyway. So I mean, what can you do? We'll hopefully have to do another Lazarus Pit. If you want to see that, just message us on Twitter, Instagram, or email us.
Email us. Any of those
things.
It's all in the description.
Or on Facebook. You can message us on Facebook. Sean, do you want to take us out?
Yes, thanks for listening to this very special episode of Movie Mondays. Hyphen the Lazarus Pit.
Hyphen Iron Man.
Feet. Connor and Sean. Sorry, Sean and Connor.
Do you think that's searchable?
I think so. It's good SEO on that. Like you said, all of our social links are in the description. You can contact us through any of them. We do have a Patreon as well if you're interested in supporting the show. Thanks to everyone who does. But if you can't support, or if you just don't want to, the best way you can help out is by telling one human being that we exist.
Just the one.
Just one. No more, no less.
No more.
And other than that, I think that's it for listening.
I think that's it. So, I've been Conor Lawler.
I've been Sean.
I will see you next week, guys.
Bye.
Bye.